That was hilarious. That was also like when I saw that, I was like, "What the fuck is it?" Like? It is just like baffling. Like I like listened to this podcast and wrote down all the mistakes or whatever.
Yeah, I mean it is like stupid. Like her complaint is pretty stupid.
Yeah.
I mean it's like they do. On one hand, it's like okay, they make money and like are like saying more facts like than we. It's like if we went out of our way to be like, this is the 100% factually true podcast about the Farrelly brothers. I mean, I think we don't really. I mean, we're not really hiding that we're not bringing a terrible amount of like background information to the table on some things, but.
I mean, in terms of us, no. If we ever got fact checked, it's like the same shit would happen. It's just funny that it happens to them.
Yeah,
but
it's
just like you couldn't happen to a better guy. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I'm saying is that they're presenting more of like I don't know, more of a lay of the land, like that they know the shit.
I think the really defensive "this is a comedy podcast" thing was very funny.
Yeah.
But just pretending to side with the woman who's writing the book about Elaine May was also very funny.
Yeah, no, that's
because
that's great.
Yeah, I'm sure she is like definitely way more informed about Elaine May.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like getting that mad as to annotate a 2-hour podcast just to show how wrong someone is. Like I wouldn't even do that. And you guys have seen how psycho I can get online sometimes. I wouldn't even do that.
I mean, we're avowed blank check haters, and I've not listened to more than 2 minutes of the podcast.
I've tried to get
life.
material to to talk about, to shit talk it, and it's not worth it.
I think I'm gonna hold my tongue on BC for a minute, though. I don't want to appear too salty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, season 3 of Bank Check is imminent regardless.
Oh yeah, that's no, we're not changing who we are.
Yeah.
Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah,
but,
I just pay them no mind.
pay them no mind.
Griffin
exactly.
Newman has me blocked.
That's true. At that point, we're mature men.
Out of sight, out of mind. Look,
two different paths. You walk down yours, I walk down mine.
if they ever want to like extend an olive branch and make peace with us, they can. But
I'm always willing to break. It's fucking Easter. You know what I mean? I'm always willing to break bread.
I don't know why we're listening to The Offspring while recording the podcast, which we now are doing.
Yeah.
Welcome to the After Hours. This is the first session in the Nudio. Not really. This is like the temporary digs. This is the Grandma's Boy studio in beautiful Winnetka, California.
A lot of people don't know about Winnetka. That's, you tell, a person who lives in LA their whole life, tell them, about Winnetka. They're not going to know about it.
Home of
the Extended Clip Podcast.
Not what I was looking for. Thought you were going to hit the trivia.
I mean, I don't know that much shit about
Flying Lotus.
Oh yeah. Okay.
If you listen to that BBC Essential Mix, you hear that British robot, Winnetka, California.
No, yeah, I think doesn't he have a song called Winnetka or something
Probably.
like that? Yeah.
Probably.
Makes
Anyway,
sense. Go listen to that.
I think I have to turn off the VHS,
Yeah.
The VCR rather, or at least pause it for now. Although I don't want the image to burn into the screen like the olden days. But if an image from Citizen Kane were to get burned into my grandmother's TV,
you're only improving her TV.
Exactly. Would she complain? I don't think so.
No, she'd have a fucking. It elevates what it is. You turned a TV into a goddamn painting. You know what I mean?
That is so true. I left my notes over there. You guys can talk.
Okay. So.
Is now the time?
Okay, so. All right, JT, I've been wanting to. So we just listened to The Offspring. You just listened to The Offspring for the first time ever. You never heard an Offspring song.
I have.
What's your
discovered
live reaction?
while listening to it that I had listened to Get a Job, but it's great. I think they're my new favorite band.
Well, dude, that's glad. That's good to hear because we wouldn't have played that if we didn't want you to enjoy it.
I already ordered on Amazon like a nice Offspring T-shirt to wear, so I'm ready.
In Pretty Fly, for a white guy, he talks about going to a tattoo parlor and there's a mix-up. Like he pays for a tattoo that says like 13, and he gave him 31. And thinking about like bridging the gap between my middle school self and my middle-aged period that I'm approaching, of 26 to 32 years old.
Interesting.
I think there's something of a wraparound, in these middle points of my life that The Offspring might be what holds it all together.
So
I've been getting back into golf. I golfed in 8th grade. That's when I started. I love rock music again.
Nice.
I have a fervent I'm just in the deep throes of a passionate love affair with country music, and that's not something I liked as a middle schooler, but that's something that traditionally more middle-aged men enjoy.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. JT, you're about to chime in?
No, I mean, it's just so your hypothesis there is that like middle age is returning to your middle school self, but also liking things that old people like. I buy it, man.
Yeah. Damn, that's like so you're getting in touch with your inner child, you would say.
No.
You're acting a little more childish nowadays. You know, you're a little bit more whimsical. You instead of walking around, you might skip somewhere.
Yes, you got me. You got me good. I'm almost crying laughing at that. That is so funny. I don't know why that's so funny. I'm literally crying. The light is very heavy. To be fair, that light is
You're not going to get film criticism like this anywhere else. All right.
switching the lights.
Yeah.
That was intense.
I looked over at you and I did notice like there is a lot of light on Eddie, and I'm glad it wasn't just me perceiving something that wasn't there.
I was getting the interrogation treatment.
Yeah. Lights on me now.
Yeah, shout
I'm
out to
ready.
the Lex G podcast. I felt like I was being shot by Robbie Richardson in the interrogation machine. That was rough. The bald head, my receding hairline ever so slightly was definitely on full display there. But we're still figuring things out here at the Grandma's Boy studio. We don't know the lighting setup proper yet, but we know the sound setup. I think it sounds good.
Yeah, listen to this through your headphones right now. Is this sounding good?
That sounds great. That's the best you've ever sounded before.
That is such good news.
The studio's making a lot of big changes already.
It really is.
We're not even talking about movies anymore.
Yeah. No, we are. Okay.
We're off that.
Where East is East. That is the topic of today's After Hours episode. It's a silent film by Todd Browning. Now, Malcolm, you brought a Todd Browning film to the pod, a while back with The Unknown. This is another Browning Chaney joint. Well, tell us a little bit about this one. Just the vibe. Set the plate for us.
All right. Well, I was going to go plot description.
Oh, no, you could do that too.
No, I want to go at it from a different angle. Maybe I want to go vibe description here. And there's a plot, of course, but what's going on here is Lon Chaney's daughter is, she'll be talking to her boyfriend, and Chaney will just be snarling in the room. And then kind of the woman who's out to seduce the daughter's boyfriend is also kind of lurking around, and that's mostly the vibes of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like it's this thing where I realized the plot description I had read beforehand hadn't really set up until like 45 minutes into this like 60-minute movie, and I was like, oh, this really was just like these vibes, just hanging out. You have the major players, you kind of know where the major tensions lie between these major players. And you kind of like Browning just kind of lets all of these actors just snarl at each other, and it's been described a lot as a masochistic film. And I think the way that Chaney's character really domineers over everyone in this film is quite masochistic, and I think Browning's camera really accompanies that too. It's like, I don't know, it feels very oppressive, these sets, To
get to the vibes and like the oppressive quality of it, there's so many shots of just like animals like lurking around, skulking about, and being like, I don't know, that sets a very ominous tone for the film. And also it's something where I feel like happens a lot in early cinema that I really love, because it's like, the motherfuckers weren't seeing like tigers and elephants anywhere before. Like, this is the first time, like, early silent cinema, it's so cool because they're like, you're gonna see animals and cultures and shit like this. I mean, culture's like depicted racistly usually, but like, I don't know, it's just the fun of people having not seen a variety of things yet and exposing them to that.
Also, it's kind of to bounce off of that with like kind of all the animals, and that is a fun aspect, especially kind of the creepier, faker looking animal. Like, you know, one of them's the gorilla, right? That's someone. Obviously, that's someone.
Yeah,
that wasn't a real gorilla. Right?
No, I think the contrast between it being like showing off real animals and being a gorilla suit movie is awesome. Like that's such a cool contrast because it's like that silent film thing of showing stuff off, even in this fake version of Laos, you know, get this nice set going and, you know, describing, so here we're on the border of Indochina, you know, we're in, now we're in Vietnam, which is, I think the title card described it as like Chinese tradition, but French ruled, which is like, maybe not, but, you know, 1929 Americans didn't know quite what Vietnam even was, you know? So I think the kind of like exploration of the world, its spaces and its creatures is like an awesome, you know, just like entryway into a very heavy drama as well.
What's the plot? Well, the plot. I'll ask that question and I'll answer it. Do it. But I guess what's the young couple's name? Because I know Tiger or Toyo, right?
Lon Chaney is Tiger Haynes. He plays a trapper in Laos, an American trapper in Laos. And his daughter's name is Toyo. And Toyo is, you know, she's getting a little flirty with this boy named Bobby. So they want to eventually get married. Bobby, you know, he's in the same line of work as Lon Chaney's character.
He's the son of like someone who has like a circus, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, because that's how Lon Chaney knew that guy for a long time. Yeah, your father used to buy animals from me a long time ago. Yeah, so he definitely old-timed him that on that scene. But so that dynamic is set up right away, the classic meet the parents kind of thing, but very intense. You know, this is Lon Chaney who is playing these silent film, you know, monster-type characters. And here he's just an angry dad, you know?
Yeah, whose like face is scratched up from, you know, trapping. Yeah. So it gives him a very gruff demeanor. And it is like, you know, with the Lon Chaney movies I've seen with Browning, like The Unknown, you know, he's doing a very big physical affectation in that one. And kind of this one, he's kind of more, I don't know, normal mode, so to speak. But I guess the scratches is kind of like his big flair that he's parading around. And I guess what I find interesting about Browning's movies, and it's very reflective of its time period, a lot of them were about the circus. And even when this movie's not technically about the circus, it's about like kind of like time in between the circus, or like how the animals get to the circus. You know what I mean? And I think the circus, you know, to those filmmakers' points, was just a much bigger part of people's lives back then. Like much more people were employed by circuses and stuff like that. So it's just like, they're like, damn, we got to make movies about our surroundings. We got to make some circus
I feel
shit.
like it's a classic link to like sort of vaudeville tradition in that sense.
Exactly. Like what were entertainers doing before that kind of thing was recorded? Exactly. Is that kind of thing, the circus and vaudeville type performances. So the circus is the link back home here. But here in Laos, they're gonna get on a boat to Singapore together, Lon Chaney and his prospective son-in-law, and on that boat they meet this floozy. What is her name again? The silent vamp of this movie, the femme fatale. So the woman on the boat, this Madame de Silvia, Bobby keeps saying to her, "There's something about your eyes I can't quite place."
You're just so different from the other girls.
And so if you go on Letterboxd, a lot of people will say like, "Oh, this movie's like pretty racist," and it's like, I mean, like it's just like racist depictions, and like also the one thing that is interesting about this, and I won't just say this is so racist. This is just something I haven't seen before. When those characters speak either Vietnamese or, you know, Chinese, the inner titles are just the characters unsubtitled from that language that they're speaking, you know? And then you just get like a reaction shot of Lon Chaney, like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like kind of funny. But,
it's a formally interesting way to be racist.
Yes. Yeah. Any thoughts?
I like how let me all right,
no,
JT.
I mean, I feel like it is different.
JT.
I've been watching a lot of Silent Fords recently, and I feel like it is less racist than in.
JT couldn't remember the name of the movie, but it was The Iron Horse.
And so, anyways, they're like some Chinese railroad workers, and that it's just an approximation of them doing like a racist sort of English voice, and that like I don't know, that feels more offensive than having the text in like a different language.
Yeah, I mean this one, this film does have that as well,
Yeah.
where there will be characters speaking in like affected, accented. English, broken English, but all that aside, I think it's just something to kind of dive into and then kind of have that in the back of your head as you kind of watch this film. It's right there, so it kind of has to be in the back of your head while you're watching this film.
Well, yeah, it also just it just kind of complicates things. It just makes it a much more interesting thing, just seeing how I don't know what Todd Browning and whatever script writers' conception of Chinese culture clash with Lon Chaney.
And I mean, like, while it is sort of like a grab bag mix of like Asian cultures that they're just sort of like aping there, it is interesting to see that like Chaney and Toyo are like living in the midst of that culture. I think that is like an interesting contrast with like them and her fiance Bobby, who's definitely like presenting like more westernized.
Yeah, no, Bobby's like a classic, like he looks like he could be on the poster of The Thin Man. He's like a classic Hollywood. He's an upstart. He's gonna go to the city, get a big job, and be the star of the movie. But being in this milieu, he's just like the least interesting character because you have these two women and you have Lon Chaney, and it's just so steamy and like angry and like
he's just the pussy getter.
So Bobby on the boat, and actually before we get to the boat, I wanted to point out that some camera movement like as the two guys are getting on the boat and Toyo is like waving goodbye to them. It's just this reverse shot of her and then the guys on the boat, and the camera is just like pulling away in this incredibly dramatic, like sweeping, I don't know, a crane or, whether the camera was suspended like Murnau did. I don't know what the fuck he did, but it's a very slow and steady pullback on each end, and it's just stunning. And then you get on the boat, and there's this beautiful rear projection when you first get on it, where Lon Chaney's just with that rear projection of the sea passing by behind him. Really, some of the most incredible camera work of the movie, for sure.
And that scene, like, it stands out to me because it is like that scene kind of lasts maybe like 30 seconds longer than it would, just because Browning obviously wants to, get some visual tricks going off here. Like that touch where Bobby kind of separates from the Lon Chaney character and goes to the upper deck, and like so he could wave away to her privately or something. Just kind of like, I don't know, something like that as an excuse to get more camera moves. It stands out in a very short and condensed movie like this.
So Bobby is obviously very taken by this woman, this mysterious woman, and her very mysterious eyes. What is it about those eyes? Because he says it like 3 times, and it's like she's an Asian woman. She's not white. That's what it is. She's not a white woman.
Well, it reminds me of like someone comes up to old Tiger Lon Chaney, and while Bobby's flirting. He's like, those white boys are easy or something like that.
Yeah. There's some great lines about like, stop the white boy, stuff like that. White boys on the boat going crazy. This white boy's on the boat absolutely going crazy. And that's what these boys are doing. Bobby is ultimately seduced by Madame de Silvia, and they have a big romantic, not even romantic, just straight erotic kissy. And, you know who's there to peep on them. Old Daddy-O, old Lon Chaney. He catches them in the act.
Oh, that's amazing. Where he's just behind the door there.
Yeah, because...
Oh, my God.
So the chronology of it is, he's seduced by her completely. They don't actually kiss, though. He leaves. Then Lon Chaney comes in, gives the exposition that this lady, Madame de Silvia, is Toyo's mother. Yeah. Lon Chaney's ex, who ran off after the baby was born. And so now, she's trying to seduce the future husband of her daughter. And so Lon Chaney, of course, this just makes him more snarling and angry.
My God. I was just thinking about like, I'd be so fucking pissed off if this happened to me.
This is like a Pornhub setup type deal. This is intense.
And so he is just seething and sits behind the curtain or whatever as Bobby comes back in and is once again seduced, and that's when the kiss happens and the caught in the act, and it just like keeps getting more intense from there. Like the love. It's not even a love. It's like a love triangle +1,
Yeah.
And it's just this love triangle with Lon Chaney, the star of it, watching over, just disapproving of everything going on. As the mom then just comes back to the island with them. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna see what happens,
No, yeah, I mean, I think I like the mom twist, of course, and like it makes the tensions so much more interesting. Like something like, I don't know, like Chaney breaking up. Bobby's little love affair on the boat. It's like, of course, yeah, he wants to look out for his daughter, but it's also kind of like almost more pathetic now because he's like, his ex-wife is like coming back to like, ruin his life, and just it's just like I don't know. It's just so like it's such a bigger mess than even realized.
Yeah, it's like the animal trapping game's getting bad. My daughter's trying to marry this weasel, and my ex-wife is in town now.
Yeah, it's no good.
It basically gets more intense as the gorilla suit man comes back. We got a little shot of the man in the gorilla suit in a cage, and he was pretty still. So it's like maybe that was a real gorilla. The first time you see it, that's what you're thinking. And
I was like, that's a fucked up. I was like, that's a weird looking gorilla. Like I was like, I thought for a second that it was like a oversized baby gorilla or something like that, like a baby gorilla that was just huge, but. It
gets like more and more intense though. There's like this one shot like after the gorilla is introduced. His name is Rango. Bobby gets a kiss from each girl like at the same time, pretty much. It's
such a funny scene. And Otoyo is like, "Oh, you're blushing because my mom kissed you," or something. He's like, "Oh!" And he just starts like cracking up. It is this Bobby. Bobby's so funny in this movie because he's the worst person. Like, just cheats relentlessly. Like, shows no like. Easy criticism, but it's just like everything works out for him in the end. Like,
yeah.
And it's not like the movie's not about him too, which also kind of makes it funny that just kind of like this fourth most important character who's just kind of like a part of the plot, just like everything works out for him.
Yeah. He has to make the decision. But really, he didn't have to. But we get to see him make the decision that it's like, okay, I'm not gonna go for this girl's mom. Like I'm just gonna chill
after spending a good night.
Yeah. But then Lon Chaney lets the gorilla loose into the mom's room, and just him like skulking, like going up the staircase after he let the gorilla loose is so funny. Just some of his most like. Just villainous but like comical acting too, because it's the intro for a gorilla suit scene and it's awesome. I think it's really funny, and they're terrified and hiding and stuff, and it's a classic love wins out ending despite the absolutely like punishingly masochistic tone. It's like a 60-minute movie that feels much longer in a way, not in a bad way, just in a way that's like this movie feels like you're being trapped. It feels like you're going to walk into one of Lon Chaney's animal traps, or he's going to, just snarl at you from a distance.
I mean, I feel like all these like confusing motivations just like make Bobby all the more cowardly, and it's Chaney's motivation of like not telling his daughter right away, like just because he's concerned about her happiness, and like just hearing about this fucked up love triangle in general would probably just destroy her. It adds like a sense of nobility to his cause, but it's immediately ruined by like him just like fucking like, I mean, being a cuck about it and then killing his ex-wife with a gorilla.
Yeah. And killing your ex-wife with a gorilla is insane. Like, he eventually goes in there to rip the gorilla off of her, I guess, or to get it back in the cage, and like he gets injured or whatever. And it's pretty funny to see like a wounded Lon Chaney after he's like, yeah, he's gonna be okay. He's gonna be okay. He just killed his wife with a gorilla.
That's true. You kind of get a nice shot towards the end that's kind of like low to the perspective of where his wheelchair is as you see him go off. And yeah, I think it is like, considering this is like, it's a short movie, but it's like these scenes are kind of like long, and these scenes are mostly just kind of like people in a room talking to each other. Yeah, like it is like these kind of just the confusing and juggling of all these tensions that it's like, okay, I'm not saying I sympathize with Lon Chaney, but it's just like the way he was acting, it's like it's all leading to this. Like, it's so funny just to see him with the hat and like suit get up, just kind of snarling, because it's like I think of his other roles and it's just like, you know, he's a little bit more, you know, down in the dirt, you know, or something, or just like or he's not dressing as nice.
Yeah, I feel like in contrast to The Unknown, this
Yeah.
is like such a less sympathetic role, obviously,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it so much more of a punishing viewing. Like The Unknown, you know, he's up to some sus shit, but like you just feel for him because I feel like Chaney plays into the melodrama in a much more sympathetic way in something like The Unknown.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's just like, I don't know, I guess you know, more than anything, you feel for the young couple is kind of the audience viewpoint or whatever, audience identification, like something like The Black Cat, where it's like you have this young couple just as an excuse for the audience to watch an all-star, you know, actor. But I don't know. I like it a lot, just not quite as much as that great level of something like The Unknown.
Yeah, I feel like it's, I don't know, it's doing a lot of really good things, but not enough to like differentiate it to like a really great status. There's one scene that we didn't talk about that I really love early on, because as we've talked about, there's a lot of skulking and staring where I feel like Chaney doesn't have as much like physicality there, but an early scene where he's like sort of hopping around, it's when he comes back from his first expedition and he sees Toyo again, and they're like hopping around pretending to be animals, and that's like intercut with like little shots of the animals surrounding them. I just love that little beat, and like, I don't know, adds to like the looming presence of animal violence and ultimately like the type of brutality that Chaney succumbs to there.
Yeah, I think the animal violence thing is also a big point to look at, because it's like it's how he makes his living, and it's this like this display of animals in the film. It's just such a different way of looking at animals versus people. Like I feel like in the last, you know, it's not that enlightened of a thing to say, but in the last 90 years, obviously the way people view animals versus humans has changed a lot. But I don't know. I feel like that does contribute to that like darkness of this film, is that all he's doing is just like capturing exotic animals to often be sent off to circuses, just like the freaks to be, you know, pointed at and gawked at.
I mean, I feel like that's something in terms of like also the racist aspects of a lot of like these early silent films, like in how they examine culture, is like from a Western perspective, viewing them as like primitive cultures, and like that in the animal trapping way, I think like is a part of I don't know, horror that an audience member in the 20s would see.
Yeah.
Also, just like the, you know, like the, you know, like cuts to the animals just looking, you know, during scenes and stuff like that. I mean, it's even kind of explicitly mentioned when the seductress returns back, the mom, that like Tiger's talking to him like, oh, the gorilla like remembers you, and like, you know, remembers what you did to it, and like is not a fan. And it's just like I'm just like weird implication like that there's, I don't know, like what are they doing to these animals? Are they whipping these animals or some shit like that?
What did she do to that animal?
What'd she do? Did she fuck that animal?
That's what I'm saying. That's because he gives her one of the darkest scowls in the movie.
Yeah.
And then the intertitle says, "A gorilla never forgets who hurts them." It's like, Jesus. That was like one of the more serious beats. I mean, it sets up how she fucking dies. So it has to be some sort of serious implied backstory. It also is worth noting that the longest version of the film I could find on OK-Ru was like 63 minutes or so.
That's about
the Dave Kerr review lists it at 75, I think. And I've seen it like listed longer, not places where you can watch it, anything like that. So like most silent cinema, you never know what's been lost over the years too. It might not be a fully complete movie anymore.
That's true too. Something to consider.
You never know. Anyway, we're going to do something a little unorthodox here. How about we go to an email segment on the Patreon on the After Hours?
These, you know, if you're paying, you deserve to, you know, hear your question answered.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that should be true. I should only answer the questions of patrons, maybe. Actually, maybe not. Fuck them.
Well, no, because that's the incentive to get behind the paywall. I like that little hand motion. You get a little teaser.
The listeners will never know what I did with my hands.
I think you could guess.
Our email, the housewarming email, comes from Valerie, and it says, or she says, the email is the it here. Let me take that over. Full transparency, keeping it in, just working out the process here. Actually, one of you guys want to read the email?
Sure.
No, next time.
I was gonna say we're gonna have to get over there.
Yeah, JT is
I can
so
squeeze
cozy
here, but I don't need to.
JT has been in the same seat for the last 4 hours since we got here. Valerie says, "Hey fellas, I know I said in a previous email I have no more questions about movies, but I have one thought. Do you have any favorite character actors? The classic, oh yeah, it's them thing people love to talk about. Are there any you don't think are talked about often enough? Also, I'm going to clarify this can be from any era. I hope y'all are enjoying the new studio space. Thanks, Valerie."
Well, to be honest, the classic, and you guys could. I'll go out. No phone for me. I don't need to look up anything.
Yeah.
But
okay.
No. No, but I sometimes struggle with actor names, especially the character actors. So one that just kind of comes to mind up front is Peter Stormare. I'm always happy when he's in a movie because he's just got a super like intense presence. Often plays villains.
I was gonna say for the folks at home who don't know Peter Stormare, what may they recognize him from?
8mm. He's
Okay.
one of the guy. He's like the main, like he's kind of the ringleader operator in 8mm who's like running the snuff syndicate, and he's in a lot of other stuff too that I don't remember. Go
ahead. Sorry,
but I was gonna say I guess it's like that's with character actors and stuff like that. Like I feel like the stronger ones are like ones. I don't know. I just remember like flashes of their performance in a movie, and I don't even really remember the movie itself. I just remember them acting in it for like 7 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Stormare now, I mean, the two Coen brothers movies has definitely made an impression on me. His roles in Fargo and Lebowski. I can't remember what he did. Oh no, in Armageddon, I remember him now too. See, that's the best thing about those guys actors, like or that lady actors, where it's just like, you just look at the filmography and you don't even remember exactly what they did in the movie, but you're like, oh yeah, that's right. But JT,
I have two that I just thought of, that like instantly came to mind, but had to place like names and performances entirely, and both are character actors in the Ford canon, and I would say Walter Brennan and Ward Bond are like some of my all-time favorites. Like Walter Brennan in general, like his iconic role in Rio Bravo as Stumpy is something that like my dad and I like talk about Rio Bravo like a lot. Like every time it's on and he watches it, he tells me, and just Stumpy is always a key figure to be remembered. But Brennan is just sort of like, I feel like he did a lot of the sort of in westerns, like the grizzled old prospector guy sort of voice character, and is more like comic relief. But when he does have the chance to take like center stage, I think can do a lot of really beautiful dramatic performances. At one point I was like, because I was really hyped on Brennan and I was going to change my like Twitter picture to Brennan, but then I was like, he was super racist.
Oh yeah,
like an active like Klansman, like saying racist things on set kind of guy.
Yeah,
and
Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
So it's can't all be winners.
His villainous turn in My Darling Clementine, I think, feeds into that. Like he is pure evil in that movie, because that's the thing. I think he might be the most lovable character actor of classic Hollywood. Just like Stumpy and To Have and Have Not in that movie too.
Oh yeah.
Dude, him and Bogey on the boat, like that's guys being dudes.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate just like dude cinema moment. But of course, him just being a virile racist is like terrible.
That's no good.
One I always think of is Kevin Corrigan. Malcolm and I watched Superbad again last night, just kind of in the background. But Corrigan there is so incredible as the guy at the party in the Brazil national team jersey who beats the shit out of the probably pedophile character Joe Latruglio. But Kevin Corrigan, he's been in a couple Scorsese movies in very small parts. I believe in Goodfellas, is he the one stirring the sauce? I don't know. I'm not a Goodfellas nerd. I've seen it fucking twice.
Neither.
He's in Goodfellas in a little bit, but in his smaller roles, he it becomes that guy thing. But then in his meatier roles, in the smaller independent films that he's in, really gives time to shine. Like the one we talked about a couple weeks ago on this show, Walking and Talking by Nicole Holofcener. He's incredible in that. The range from the schlubby video store, My Bloody Valentine t-shirt, gore freak, to the guy who wants to beat up Jonah Hill because his girlfriend perioded on Jonah Hill. Incredible.
Keith David is another one that's like
course.
amazing, and that's the thing. It's like what's like someone, I guess Philip Seymour Hoffman, he gets called like a character actor a lot, but he has a lot of lead roles.
Yeah, I think like after a while, people realized that if I call him Phil Hoffman one more time, you guys actually have to punch me because I am not his friend.
Phil.
Yeah, like I don't know
Phil
anyone
Cyhoff.
who has ever known him.
P.I.S.
Because I always just type out push, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm not used to saying his name. Pish. That's how my grandma says. I forgot if that means number 1 or number 2, but she says pish. She says I gotta go pish.
Oh,
I think that means poop though. I think it means poop.
When he said number 1, I was literally thinking about not like the bathroom number 1, just like saying the phrase number 1. I'm like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, 1 + 1 = pish. It's very true. Keith David, of course, is definitely one where it's just like you hear the voice even and you're there. Yeah. Luis Guzman is one for a lot of, the stuff that got me really into cinema, the, classic like 90s and 2000s, or really mainly like 90s stuff. Like people like him, it's just so comforting to see in a movie. Yeah, I don't know. You guys have any
to top it off, I think with big, I'd say probably one of the most iconic character actors, Stephen Root. I really like. I mean, especially for his like voice performance roles, like on King of the Hill, just like really giving it in as Bill, like throughout the years. I think that's one of my like favorite like characters of all time.
Yeah, I feel like TV actually might be where there's more like there's a lot of people who have had small roles on a handful of sitcoms, and they're the ones doing the real work. And I got to be honest, I'm not the guy remembering the name. It's been, we've been doing the show for a couple of years now. I think people probably recognize how terrible I am at remembering actors' names when I don't have them written down in front of me. It's just not how I watch movies, despite my love for a lot of character actors and, leading people too. It's just not the way my brain operates, I guess. But it's like so many Farrelly Brothers movies you think of. It's just like there's a great character performance in there on the side from someone that you can't remember at the moment.
I'll go maybe a little bit of a deeper cut, maybe not. Lee J. Cobb, always fan of a Lee J. Cobb performance.
Okay.
Coogan's Bluff, Thieves Highway are 2 performances that come to mind. And I think he might have worked with Siegel a bit. And seeing him and Clint kind of bounce kind of salty humor off each other in Coogan's Bluff is it's an enjoyable sight.
I'll go Dennis Franz.
Oh, Dennis Franz fucking rules.
You gotta give it up for the Franz because he made the jump to the TV and just like let his career ride like for a minute, and but peak Franz, peak sleazy 80s Franz is like he could show up in any of those fucking movies. It's like, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, and the fucking most obvious one ever that we'll end on, Harry Dean Stanton. Rest in peace to the god.
Bill Duke.
Even better.
Yeah.
Actually,
Sorry.
not even better, but close.
I had him. Yeah, I just getting my names in.
You know what?
While we're just getting names in, it's kind of ridiculous that I didn't mention like Lamb's Suit, especially like in all the Johnny Toe movies he's in. Come on. Yeah, that's ridiculous. And Dick Miller. Like, I think we need to do some sort of penance for not mentioning both of those two. So maybe an episode on, I don't know, with those two in mind coming soon.
That's going to do it for the first After Hours in the Grandma's Boy studio. I don't know what we're doing on the Patreon next week.
Yeah. Huh?
So I guess we'll see you for episode 100 in a few days.
See?
Yeah. We have another email, but I'm going to save it. It's like more for the 100 one.
Okay,
so
perfect.
We'll save it. Yeah, bye.
You should have spoken to the pastor.